gospel reading is Mark chapter 1, beginning with the 21st verse. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. The people were amazed at his teaching, because he taught them as one who had authority, not as the teachers of the law. Just then, a man in their synagogue who was possessed by an impure spirit cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," said Jesus sternly. "Come out of him." The impure spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. The people all were so amazed, and they asked each other, "What is this? A new teaching and with authority? He even gives orders to impure spirits, and they obey him." News about him spread quickly over the whole region of Galilee. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
The Gospel of Mark uses that word immediately. Jesus immediately did all these things. I mean, partly there's small spaces involved. Jesus left the house and immediately he was in the synagogue. If you go there with me sometime to Israel, it's right across the street. So immediately he was in the synagogue. But that's not all of it. It really is just there's an urgency. Jesus is about now. Our theme now is hope is now. All right, it's not about, well, someday, whatever. Hope, someday after the pandemic, someday. No, hope is now. God's presence is now. Jesus' gift to us, Jesus' claim is now. Jesus taught, I love this, says that they were amazed at his teaching. I'm not sure when I've preached I've ever amazed anybody. I do miss your faces being in the room. Some reaction, a yawn, a grimace, a nod. When Jesus taught, it doesn't say they nodded in agreement. They were amazed at his teaching. They were amazed. That's kind of what we're invited to do, is be amazed together by Jesus and by all that Jesus would have us be amazed by. Let's think about that. I did an interview the other day with a woman named Wendy Farley. She's going to go on my Wednesday Bible study pretty soon. She's written a number of books about beauty and why being amazed with beauty isn't just like a fun aesthetic thing, but it actually changes the world. we think there are political issues and justice issues, she said, but actually they are spiritual issues, and it's learning to notice beauty everywhere. She says with her students, she says, "Tell me about beauty." They describe sunsets or movie stars. She says that the beauty actually to be amazed by is everywhere. It's all kinds of things. It's the unphotogenic scene. It's a dog wallowing on his back. It's a woman who's shut in, but she notices a tree outside. We need to practice being amazed. We're kind of taught to just turn on the TV and seek our diversions, but we need to practice being amazed. Somebody who can help us with a lot of things, but with this is Mr. Rogers. He's been gone. His wife died just the other day. That was interesting. He was followed around years ago, you may know the story, by a journalist named Tom Junod, and they walked into Penn Station, and Maya Lin created this really interesting clock there. And Tom Junod said that when Mr. Rogers came in, he said that he looked up at the clock and said his jaw came open as if he were trying to catch a peanut that had been tossed in the air. Just amazed. Mr. Rogers would teach us to be amazed by so many things that we normally just walk by and are not attentive to. And not just things, but also people. Mr. Rogers had that knack of being amazed by people. There's so many stories, but there's one of a boy that was afflicted by severe cerebral palsy. And he was treated badly by his family. Social workers finally got him out of there, and they put him with a new family. And his mom watched him, and she thought that Mr. Rogers was keeping him alive because her son would watch Mr. Rogers, and that seemed to be the highlight of his day. Some foundation offered grants for people like him to be able to visit with Mr. Rogers, so that foundation worked that out. And so Mr. Rogers visited with the boy, and the boy was so excited. When it came time to leave, Tom Junod, following Mr. Rogers around, said to the boy, "Would you pray for me?" And after they left, Tom Juno said to him, that was very clever of you to ask that boy to pray for you. And Mr. Rogers said, no, I really hoped that he would pray for me. He said, I figure anyone who's suffered challenges like that must be very close to God. He was amazed by a boy. How do we learn to be amazed by one another? I don't know what the demonic is in Mark's gospel. There are demons everywhere, and Jesus is in combat with them. It's not a red guy with a pitchfork. You'd run from him in a nanosecond. The demonic is always, it looks really attractive. It feeds your cravings. It feeds your fears. It feeds, and it would be our undoing. There are evil forces out there. Not a red guy with a pitchfork. That'd be easy, right? This is demonic, and I think what the demonic wants to do above all else is to keep us from being amazed, to keep us from noticing beauty out there and in other people. I love the way Jesus deals with the demon in this story that we just heard. The demon is there in the synagogue at Capernaum, and Jesus says, I love the translation. It says, be quiet. That sounds so polite. The Greek phimotheti, it's not so sweet. Like, oh, would you be quiet, please? No, instead it's like, hush, shut up, shut your trap. Like when Jesus is dealing with evil and whatever would undo us, he's not gentle and polite. He's firm. Hush, shut up, shut up. I wonder where Jesus says shut up today. So much racket out in the world, and there's racket in your head, too, if you're like me. Sometimes, I don't know about you, I get thoughts going in my head, sometimes especially if I'm lying awake at night, and it's like whack-a-mole, like I think this, I think that, whack, whack, get it down, get it down, get it down. And what Jesus does is, Jesus comes to those thoughts, and Jesus says, phimotheti, hush, shut up, shut up. There are two kinds of negative thoughts that plop around in our heads that need curing from Jesus. They're negative self-images. You walk around and you think, I'm stupid. I'm no good. I made a mess of my life. Maybe you think, I'm not enough. Whatever it might be, that darkness, like those need curing, but then there are also those judgmental attitudes. Those people must be wicked. Those people must, we see this politically, right? Those people just must be stupid. They're all of those. Jesus says, hush. Negative self-images are as hard for Jesus to cure as spiritual pride. But to all of those, Jesus says, hush, shut up. There's so much racket out there in the world. The advertising industry doesn't come to us and, offer us spiritual truths. Be content, give thanks. No. The media comes at you and says, you don't have enough. You have to buy the latest thing. You have to buy more. You have to, just never unending. And then the racket out there. I thought about this week, the words that are translated devil and Satan. The word devil comes from diabolos, which means divider. The devil's a divider. Anytime you're divided, either within yourself or there's division out there in the world, that's just the work of the devil. That's the work of evil. Then the other word, the word for Satan, satanas, it means the accuser. When we accuse other people, when we accuse ourselves, that's the work of evil. It's not of God. Might try to bless it. There's guys that invaded the Capitol, they're praying in Jesus' name. That's not of Jesus. I'm sorry. Anytime there's division, anytime there's accusation of yourself and others, it's not of God. It's not of God. I've been working puzzles during the pandemic. Got to kill time somehow, just a few little pieces a day. After a while, you got the whole puzzle together. The one I just finished the other day was The Last Supper, which is an interesting painting. Da Vinci painted this on the wall of a dining hall. And it's an odd dining. They're all sitting on one side of the table. You would never do that, right? But they're sitting on one side of the table. And what I love about it is Jesus is at the center, and you got people on the left and people on the right. And like, who's on the left and who's on the right? If you're facing it, these guys are on the left, these guys, which way am I pointing here, right? But if you're on Jesus' perspective, who's left and right? Jesus is at the table with everybody. He comes to bring all the people together. With Jesus, there's not division. All the people at that table are amazing. All the people at that table are broken. All the people at that table hope, dream. All the people at our tables are amazing, broken, and they hope. I don't think how Jesus amazes today, and I don't know how to preach an amazing sermon, but Jesus amazes. Jesus is still amazing, but how that works, I think about this. John Chrysostom was a 4th century theologian, and he wrote this thing that I love. He said to the Christians to whom he was preaching in Constantinople, Istanbul today, "Let us amaze them by our way of life. This is the unanswerable argument. Though we give 10,000 precepts in words, if we do not exhibit a far better life, we gain nothing. Let us win them by our life." We're not going to win anybody by our criticisms. We're not going to win anybody by our judgment. We're not going to win anybody by holding up in our house and just looking out at the world and avoiding things. God calls us to win other people, and we will only win them with our lives. Let us amaze them. Let us astound them with what we do. That's why the church's work is more important than ever. People are so cynical and bitter and depressed and hopeless out there and in despair, and it's time for the church to step up and be amazing. Our church is amazing. We're doing about 1/10 of the amazement that God would call us to, but we're amazing. We've done some great things. Thank you for being part of that. God wants us to amaze them, to astound them. God wants each of us as Christians, to walk around and pick one of the ways the world says you should be, but to amaze people with our love, our generosity, a miraculous kind of goodness. I love this. Tomorrow starts Black History Month. And my very dear friend in our church, Richard Harrison, died back before the turn of the year. I just miss him so much. And I said at his funeral, I said, for Richard, every month is Black History Month. Richard and I actually had a conversation one day. We were walking around Selma, Alabama when we did our Deep South pilgrimage. I don't know what Richard said. We talked about Black history. He said, I love this. He said, it's not Black history. He said, it's our history. Like a white guy and a black guy. It's not Black History Month. It's our history. What do we learn from our history? I had a stunning conversation the other day with a hero of mine who lives here in Charlotte. It's going to come out in a podcast before too long. I'll advertise it to you. There'll be more to the story. But I love this. I talked to Dorothy Count Scoggins. Dot was the first black child to walk into a white school here in Charlotte, North Carolina back in 1957. There are famous photos of that, kids ridiculing her and just being horrible. And that photo is in the National Museum of African American History and Culture up in D.C. Lisa and I went to see it. When we got to that display, Lisa called Dot on the phone and said, look where we are. That was amazing. I talked to Dot the other day. The story's bigger than what I'm about to tell you, but this is so interesting. There's a guy in that photo as a kid just going, being wicked to her. Years later, he was a Methodist, by the way. He thought about what he was learning in church, and he decided he needed to apologize to her. So he did. He got in touch with her and apologized, and she had to think about whether to accept that because it had been so painful for her, but she did. But she didn't want to just leave it at that. She said, can we meet sometime? They met for dinner more than once, became friends. When this Methodist who apologized was dying, they called Dot. And then when he died, they called Dot. You need to know that your friend died. That's amazing. See, Jesus is in the business of amazing. And it can happen in you, it can happen in our world, it can happen in our church. You may think, well, not in my world, but oh yeah, anywhere. Jesus, always amazing. I think about what Dot did. That was heroic. It took courage, it took love. And I think about all the places that we see courage and love. I was was talking the other day to a mom. She's working full-time from home, has 4 children at home that she's homeschooling. Man, that's like heroic to do that. I went and got my vaccine the other day at Bank of America Stadium. But boy, I love the camaraderie going there. You know, if people were liberals or conservatives or how they voted, we're just together. It was like going to a ball game to cheer. It was like going to the ball game. It was in the stadium. It was great. And I love that. But you think about those medical workers. I've talked to a number of them on the front lines dealing with COVID. They're just tired, but they keep showing up for work. They keep helping people. They keep loving people. So much courage. It's amazing. It's amazing. I talked to a guy the other day after years of thinking, it's not now, it's some other day. He finally went for drug treatment. How much courage did that take? How amazing was that? How amazing will it be when he recovers his amazing self? You know, friends, if there's anything that we should be praying for, people call me when somebody's sick and they want me to pray for them. That's great. I think together, I think we need to pray several things. Ask the Lord to say, help me to notice what's amazing. Help me to be like Mr. Rogers. My jaw just is open like to catch a peanut. Look at that clock. Look at that window. Look at that blade of grass. Look at the breeze. Look at anything. My neighborhood, there's these children playing on the trampoline all the time. It's just endless. And part of me wants to say, why are they playing on a trampoline? That's like your wicked side. It's like, that's just so delightful. I wish I could bounce on a trampoline all day. That would just be great. I'm so happy they're able to do that. How do we notice what is amazing? I think of Lillian Humphreys. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Last time I saw her before she died, she was confined to bed. She was looking out the window and she said, we are not as attentive to clouds as we should be. I love that. Being amazed by the clouds, little droplets up there. God, what goodness in God. Create a cloud. We see images and shapes in it. How do we become amazed? Our prayer is that we might be amazed, we might be courageous, that we might see what is amazing in other people. I would say in our country today, if we have a demon possession, it's that we think we've got everything figured out and we got other people figured out. We know what's wrong with them. We know why they're thinking wrong, and we just wish they'd think like we do. Isn't that kind of the demon possession in our country? It's the division, it's the accusation, the diabolos, the satanas. Maybe we pray for healing from that. How do we be amazed by the people instead of faulting them? How do we be amazed by people instead of thinking we know all about them? One way is just by being curious. I want to be curious. You know, I always hate it when like somebody's going through something and somebody says, I know how you feel. You don't know how they feel. Don't say, I know how you feel, even if you think you know how they feel. If you want to know how they feel, say, how do you feel? And look like you're interested, and they will tell you how they feel. We need to do this in our city, in our world. How do other people feel? We have a cool project coming up during Black History Month. It's our History Month, I would say, and it's where we get to hear stories from people that are different, people that live in our community, people we think we know what they're doing, but we don't really know at all. My very dear friend, Hannah Hassan, is going to help us with this. She is a master storyteller. She is a master gatherer of stories, and she's going to help us to hear our stories of our neighbors. And we want to be curious. We want to be amazed. We want to amaze the world by being God's church that does this kind of thing. Let's listen out now for this mission moment.
We have a wonderful opportunity for growth and learning this February. In partnership with Epic Tribe, with Hannah Hassan, local storyteller and poet, we will go through an experience together. It's an experience called In the Spirit of What Came Before, which will tell stories of Black people who are working to follow their hopes and dreams today, and the beautiful Black ancestors and innovators who came before them and paved the way. Each week on Thursday morning, when we release our Mission e-newsletter, we will have these videos presented for you to do a self-guided study. There will be questions and curriculum that you can process through. And then on March 4th, Hannah and Sharday Hassan will lead us through a conversation that we might continue to study together and learn together.